Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. The other night my fiance and I went to the used superstore, Second and Charles. I've done one book haul on this channel for Second and Charles before, but they were having a sale going on. It was first you buy a tote bag, and then anything that you can fit into that tote bag will be 10% off. First, I want to show you the tote bags that we got because they're really super cute. The first one, it says Zombie Alpacalypse. Oh, get it? That's hilarious. And then the second tote we picked up, it says, "What would Johnny Cash do?" Isn't that funny? Okay. So there we go. Those are the tote bags that we bought. Now I'm going to show you the books that I got. And I've said it before that my favorite thing about Second and Charles, it's not like a typical used bookstore because the inventory that they buy back from customers, it goes through inspection. So the things that you find on the shelves at this used bookstore are actually in really good condition. So I think that the quality for the price is outstanding at Second and Charles, but that's just me. The first book I picked up is the Stephen King Horror Library edition of The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I don't have a lot of classics. I'm not a big classic reader, but I am doing that thing in October that I've been talking about where I've been reading, scary books to bring you guys in October, and I thought it might be nice to throw a classic into the mix. We'll see if I get to it. The next book that I picked up is called Eeny Meeny, and this is by M.J. Arledge. The appeal to this book was because it sounded a lot like the Saw franchise, where two people are abducted and imprisoned, and there's one gun, and only one person can leave alive, basically. The story follows the detective that's investigating all of these weird abductions that result in the victims having to make horrifying decisions. Helen is familiar with the dark sides of human nature, including her own, but this case, with its seemingly random victims, has her baffled. But as more people go missing, nothing will be more terrifying than when it all starts making sense. The second book that I picked up is called Immobility, and this is by Brian Evanson. And it is a dystopian horror novel, kind of. It's about a guy who wakes up with no memory of what has happened to the world around him. Something catastrophic has obviously taken place, but the oddest part is that he's also paralyzed, and he has no recollection of becoming paralyzed or the injury or anything like that, but he is being told that he is the only person who can retrieve something crucial that has been stolen. The back doesn't reveal what it is, but it's super important. And there's this one sentence that says, "You've got to get it back fast so they can freeze you again before your time runs out." So cryogenics has something to do with this. I don't know. I don't know whether to truly expect a horror novel or a science fiction novel, but I give it a shot. It's in good shape. It was probably like $3 or something. So this next book I'm actually pretty excited about. It's called The Last Time I Died, and this is by Joe Nelms. This is the story of a guy who has 9 years worth of repressed memories from his childhood. And one night he gets in a bar fight and he's beaten to death. But when he's resuscitated, he realizes that that process has freed up a very vivid memory from his childhood. And so he wants to remember everything else that he's repressed, and the solution is to die and to be resuscitated. So he actually tries to die over and over and over again so that more of his memory can return. Gruesome, I know, but that's why you guys like this channel. Chuck Palahniuk fans will love this book, it says. The next book I picked up is called Death with Interruptions, and this is by the Nobel Prize winner Jose Saramago. He's also the author of Blindness, which I've had on my shelf for forever, that I haven't read yet, but I immediately recognized the name. I picked up the book, and it sounds really interesting. It is about how on the first day of a new year, nobody dies. People stop dying. And at first, everybody's really super excited about that because they've achieved eternal life. But there are some repercussions. There are always repercussions. This all has happened because death has decided that she wants to be normal and she wants to fall in love and be human. And so I think it sounds sweet, wonderfully absurd and meditative, an endearing love story that can make anyone sympathize with death herself. So I just think it sounds good. And it should be a relatively quick read. It's only like 230 some pages. This is my cheesy horror novel for the year. So the book is called 9 Lives, A Story of Horror. This is by George Moser. And it literally is a story about a cat that won't die. Michael, who of course has this charmed life, wife, kid, successful. But one day he accidentally kills a stray cat. Michael begins to face his own demons via a demon cat that won't die. Like I said, I think it sounds super cheesy. I will be thrilled if this book is not. It is also is signed, which I didn't know until I got it home. Robin, enjoy the book. Thanks, George Moser. I don't know, George. I don't think she enjoyed the book. It was at the used bookstore. I shouldn't speculate. I shouldn't do that. I mean, something terrible could have happened to Robin. The next book I picked up is called Black Moon, and this is by Kenneth Calhoun. And it is the story of a society plagued by insomnia and what happens to society when people are sleep deprived. It's pretty much like the perfect horror novel for me because I can think of nothing worse than not being able to sleep for an extended period of time. But there's one guy he's doing okay, he can sleep, but his wife is plagued with this insomnia. And she ends up wandering away from home, and he sets out to try and find his wife. Kenneth Calhoun has written a brilliantly realized and utterly riveting depiction of a world gripped by madness, one that is vivid, strange, and profoundly moving. So I just thought it sounded really cool. Grotesque grace and poetic insight, heart-wrenchingly resonant, from NPR. Next, this is a pretty well-known book. This is Night Film by Marisha Pessel, and it is the story of a daughter of a director. The daughter is found dead, and an investigative journalist tries to get to the bottom of what happened and ends up, unraveling the mystery that surrounds the victim's director father. A lot of people have said great things about this book. It has slippery pages, but that makes it very heavy. I've already read this book, Intensity, by Dean Koontz. I read this book when I was a teenager. I remember being absolutely blown away by the intensity of this book. No pun intended. Like, this book is almost what I keep chasing in other books. The suspense of this book, so much suspense it made me nauseous. I can't accurately describe the feelings that I had reading this book as a teenager, but they were pretty powerful. And like I said, I feel like I keep chasing that experience into my adult life. When I'm reading a book, I want it to be as gripping as this book was. So who knows where my original copy went? I have no idea. But I picked it up at Second and Charles, and I want to reread it and see if it's all in my head. I want to see if those feelings were the direct result of being a teenager, or if this book is truly deserving of being the book that I compare all other thrillers to. So expect to see this in a Sunday Rewind video very shortly. And the next book that I picked up, I think it's been popular lately. It's called Before the Fall, and this is by Noah Hawley. This, I want to say it was featured in Book of the Month a few months back. Am I wrong? Am I right? Am I wrong? Maybe I'm confusing it with something else. But it is the story of a small plane crash that departed from Martha's Vineyard. It's carrying 11 people in total. And when the plane crashes, only one man and one 4-year-old boy survive. And the rest of the passengers were really quite affluent and influential people. So the book becomes about, yes, the survival of the man and the boy, but also unraveling why so many important people were in the same place on the same plane at the same time that happened to crash, and they happened to die, and was there conspiracy involved. If you've read it and I'm explaining it completely wrong, don't hesitate to tell me. Now, this book I know was featured in Book of the Month because this is the Book of the Month copy. This is called Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough, and I think my membership to Book of the Month Club came after this book was featured. I can't remember. Hold on. It usually has it on the cover. February of 2017. Yeah, so I joined Book of the Month Club just a couple of months after, and I could have picked this up as an extra, but I'm really glad that I didn't because I got it at Second and Charles for probably about $5. And if you're unfamiliar, it is the story of a single mom who kind of hooks up with, not the full-on hooks up with, she kisses a stranger in a bar one night and then finds out he is her new boss and he's married. And obviously that was not what she thought, but she also befriends his wife. And long story short, of course, there's some sinister and hidden side to the marriage of the boss and the wife. And now this new employee slash accidental kisser of the whatever is sort of embroiled in the middle of it because she's working for the man and she's friends with the wife. So nice little thriller that it sounds like domestic thriller, you know, run of the mill, but it also promises not to be a run of the mill domestic thriller. So we'll see. The next book that I picked up is called Raveling, and this is by Peter Moore Smith. This is the story of a man who is a diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic whose sister vanished when they were young, and he sort of devoted his life to try to solve the mystery of her disappearance. But his mother starts thinking she hears the little girl's voice and thinking that she sees her places. So it's kind of the story of him trying to solve the mystery and also put the family back together while being a paranoid schizophrenic. So I don't know. I think it sounds fascinating because I'm fascinated by schizophrenia in general. And then the last book that I have to show you is called Watch Me Die, and this is by Erica Spindler. This is just another thriller that sounded really exciting. It takes place in New Orleans, and it's about a woman who manages to put her life together after Hurricane Katrina. But then really strange things start to happen. Things that are specific to the main character. You know, a priest she was very close to is murdered. Some of the restoration work she did from the hurricane is destroyed. And then there's a string of murders in New Orleans in general. So what we're facing here, folks, is just your standard everyday psychopath coming after our protagonist. Only our protagonist becomes the suspect. I don't know, but there you have it. Those are the books that I picked up from Second and Charles during their Labor Day sale. If you've read any of the books, please let me know what you thought about them in the comment section below. Don't spoil them for me. Thank you so much for watching, you guys, and I will see you all very soon.